Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into Tom Curran's Patriots Talk podcast. Phil Perry will be in just a second. But first, let's do a little Mac Jones montage.
You got to go out there and do much better than we did today, and it's super embarrassing, honestly. Just from my point, just how I played wasn't good enough, and I can be better, and it starts with me. I'm the quarterback, and that's my job. We didn't execute. I didn't execute, and some of those plays shouldn't even have been there. We should have skipped some fourth downs and third downs, and first and second down we could have bigger plays from me. So I think, like you're talking about, those are the plays you want to make, and we did a good job, making some of them, but we really don't even want to be in that spot. And, every time it puts Josh in a hard position, it puts a lot of the other players in a hard position too.
All right, I want you guys to strap in for the Mac attack. Statistically, 2021 has been a good year for a rookie quarterback. 3,800 yards, 22 touchdowns, 13 picks, 68% completions, 92.5 rating, 48 sacks. He lost 3 fumbles. Big deal. Overall, he had a 79.3 grade. That's Pro Football Focus. You could do a lot worse, except for Mac's winter of discontent. In the last quarter of the season, and yeah, I'm reading, Mac's completion rate was 60%. That was against Buffalo, Indy, Miami, and of course, Jacksonville. He threw 5 picks, he threw 6 touchdowns, and he fumbled twice, losing them both. Patriots went 1-3. But as you know, since you watched the games, it was the nature of the mistakes. Against Indy, delay a game on the first drive. When the Patriots finally put the drive together, when they were trailing 17-0, thanks to some mistakes on special teams, etc., Mac threw a pick on 3rd and 3 from the Colts 15. And then on a 3rd and 1 coming out of halftime, he threw another pick. That led to a field goal. Okay? So now it's 20-0 in that game. And the heroic comeback effort, yeah, but you dug the hole, Mackie. Against the Bills, he actually played better, but his stats were worse. He got Nickelled on that pick that he threw. But he sometimes seemed pretty overmatched playing against the defense that was flying around in a way similar to the Colts the week before. They sped him up. He didn't respond very well. He didn't get a lot of help in terms of composure from veteran players like Trent Brown, who took an unsportsmanlike for bouncing up and down in front of the official. David Andrews scurrying downfield to try and do what I don't know after Mac got hit a little bit late. The Patriots got outplayed all around, though, offensively and defensively. Jags game, great, as he had been all year against middling or worse competition. But then Sunday, against what we would call middling competition, in an important game for the Patriots, Mac took a flamethrower to the Patriots' chances right out of the chutes, throws a pick 6 on the first 3rd down of the game on a simple throw that he knew was simple. And then in the 3rd quarter, he fumbled a snap for another turnover. Those are nut-crushing mistakes. Additionally, it was 8 for 15 for less than 75 yards in the first half. Has he been let down? Absolutely. Jacoby Myers, he had that big drop in the Colts game just prior to the Nickell pick. Oh, no, that was just prior to the punt. Anyway, Nickell had a drop just prior to the pick that he caused against Buffalo. The protections had breakdowns. The defense is intermittently porous. We can look at them and say, wow, look, they played pretty good for a while. They have those drives every game, 1 or 2 touchdown drives. We saw it against Miami. We saw it against the Colts. But we've all been watching the league long enough to know that it begins and ends with the quarterback. And in this league, you don't want to be known as Mr. September or Mr. October. You want to be Mr. December, Mac. Bringing in my guy, Phil, now. Thanks for patience. Phil, where you at? Where my Phil at? What do you think?
Mac Jones is struggling.
They got the wrong guy?
No. It's not that they didn't get the wrong guy, but we can't just continue on through the last month of the season and not look at his performance and ask questions. I think that's totally fair. My report card, for what that's worth, and I'm not a quarterback, I'm not a coach, I'm just a reporter. But I've got a report card every single week, been doing it for a long time. I try to be as honest and accurate as I can be with these. His grades the last 4 weeks are F, A-, D, D. And compared to some of what we saw from him early in the season, his first game of the season, for instance, Tom, he had an A- against the Dolphins. It wasn't like they lit up the scoreboard, but I thought he played really well. And he handled pressure really well. And we're just seeing him make mistakes that we have not seen him make consistently over the course of the regular season. You could criticize Mac Jones to kingdom come when it comes to his physical skill set all year long, or you could point out the fact that the Patriots were arguably the most run-heavy team in football, not just based on their attempts, but based on different points in the game when it's a neutral, quote-unquote, neutral sort of situation. Would you rather pass or would you rather throw? A lot of teams would rather pass. The Bills, incredibly pass-heavy team. The Patriots, on the other hand, when they can run it, when they're allowed to run it based on the time and the score, they want to run. So you could criticize them all day long for that sort of stuff, but he wasn't playing this way. He wasn't making these types of mistakes. And so that, I think, is worth pointing out. It's worth us asking the questions, why? And I know you think it's because of the rookie wall, right?
Yeah, let's run through those reasons, though. And I think the most prominent is there's no Gronk, there's no Edelman, there's not even an Amendola. I love Jacoby Myers, and he's got a place in this league, obviously, more than a place in this league. He should be a starter for 5-6 years before he starts to willow away. But the fact remains that Mac doesn't have a secondary bailout guy. He doesn't have James White. Brandon Bolden's been fine, but he's below James White. Hunter Henry's been fine, more than fine. But there's a complementary aspect in the wide receiver group that he doesn't have. Look, and you can Kendrick Bourne me all you want. I'm sure that you are. You can Myers me all you want. But there's not a player who can get open in short space quickly that is an automatic run the out like Edelman did at 6 yards, take it and get 10 that the Patriots could do with great regularity. They don't have that player. So do the weapons somewhat hold Mac back? Let's talk about that, and then we'll skip on to the next aspect, the wall and the coaching.
Sure. The weapons are not elite. So if he was performing the way he was performing this last month of the season with Tampa Bay's roster or with Buffalo's roster or Kansas City's roster, then it would be more of a concern. But Tom, I try to, at least when we're looking at his play, try to look at it in a vacuum. And when you throw a pick six because you just didn't see a defender who's playing cover two and you think he's in man coverage, and Jacoby Myers does the right thing and throttles down his route so you can hit him in the window there in the zone, the open spot in the zone, that has nothing to do with the weapons. That's all on him. Fumbled snap. Looked like the snap was there. Didn't look like there were any issues. I know it was the only snap Ted Karras played at center the entire game. But, I would think at that position, you got to make sure more than most, you got to make sure you've got that football. That to me is on him and it's not on anybody else. So those are the types of errors that I think, over the long haul, could the fact that they don't have the kind of dynamic playmaker that you're talking about hurt his performance? Yes. But is it why he threw the pick to Darius Leonard or to Bobby Okereke in Indianapolis? Is it why they were below 50% passing and they could, barely move it through the air at all against Buffalo?
Maybe.
Partly,
maybe
probably,
in the Buffalo,
right?
But the other stuff,
but less
you're
than
right.
50. But less than 50. I mean, even their weapons are not atrocious. I would say they're
not.
They're about league average, and so
C plus B minus group.
Yeah, right. And so I think it's part of the problem, but it's not the number one problem. I think the number one problem is how he's dealing with what he's looking at right now.
And to put a bow on this, they're C plus B minus up from the skill position players around Cam, which were D. Really, I would say in 2019, even if you had Edelman and James White, which the Patriots did, they were still D because they didn't have tight ends, and that's an important position in the NFL. Let's go to the next thing, which is the rookie wall and the fatigue factor. When I see delay of games, when I see focus issues, seemingly for Mac, when I see these early game mistakes, when I see Ted Karras come in for one snap that, it's just a different behind and taint area. It's nothing else is different. The ball came up and it hit his hands. That to me feels like, something's different here, and I'm going to overthink it. There's that. There's the notion that Mac mentioned We were feeling sorry for ourselves because of a short bye week, seemingly. We had a bad week of practice. I mean, I think the kid's gassed. I think he's had it. I think he's sawdust. And nobody on the Patriots is going to acknowledge that. Mac Jones would think that was heresy. But I promise you, in 2 or 3 or 4 years, we're going to ask him about his rookie season at the end and how tired he was. He's going to say I was a mess. I guarantee it. Phil, your ball.
That to me makes the most sense of anything in terms of, why is he all of a sudden not seeing things that maybe he could see earlier in the year? Why is he not taking care of the football in the same way? It's just a hard excuse for me to swallow.
I got
you. Especially they kind of just had their bye. I mean, you just had that week off. And I know it wasn't as long as they wanted it to be. I get it.
But they turned it off. Like they got in bed. They needed you know what I mean? His body said, okay, finally, we're taking a nap. Wait, we getting up again?
And you just never woke up.
We needed a full sleep here.
I think there probably is an aspect of pacing yourself that he's going to have to learn as a pro.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's not just, it's not just on the field. And I know you're talking, it goes way beyond that. It's emotional. It's, just the off the field effort that he's putting into everything. He probably needs to dial it back a little bit over the course of the year. I think everybody loves him because he's so intense and because he's so football focused and because he pours 100% into it every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And he grinds. And that's part of the reason why he has as much respect as he does from his teammates. But does he need to do a little less? Or if he needs to do that to be his best self, what else can he do to allow himself to not get exhausted? Because Tom Brady worked hard. I'm sure Aaron Rodgers works hard. I'm sure there are a lot of people who put a lot into their jobs and they're able to maintain. So what is it is it just experience? He just needs to go through a season or two of it before he gets used to it? Or are there other things he's not doing that he could be doing that he needs to do to be better?
We talk about Brady and we could say, as you did, Brady did it. He did. You're right. He went to Michigan. It's a high profile program. He had to compete his balls off. He had to play in bowl games. He had to go through a draft process, but he did get an apprentice year. He got to see what the NFL was all about. He got to understand what it's like to be standing next to 32 and 35-year-olds and how much better those guys are than the Big Ten or the SEC. And Mac
Does
is
that
learning
help you exhaustion wise?
I think it gives you, okay, you get to take a walk around the course. First, you get to walk the course at least, and then you played it the next time. He's fine. He's seeing every hole for the first time and say, go play it. And he's going to shoot a 76, but he was 3 under at the turn. Yeah. I wish I could be 3 under at the turn. Phil, talk to me about protection issues. Has he had enough protection from the offensive line? I mean, we saw critical sacks on Sunday. And we've seen a lot of them, the third down sacks on 3rd and 4, when they say, bring the house at the boy. Nobody's going to uncover quick. And he's not going to want to make a mistake. And he's not going to run away from us. So bring it.
I don't think it's a protection thing.
Okay.
He's been pressured, but to me, it hasn't been overwhelming. It's nowhere near what it was early in the season when he was under duress constantly. He's been sacked 4 times the last 4 weeks. And then you have your bye, then you have your Buffalo game where he barely dropped back at all. So that to me is not it. I wonder if there is something schematically that teams are throwing at him that they weren't earlier in the year, or that they have found somewhere around midseason and said, if we can do that to him, we're going to be okay. I really, honestly, Tom, I go back to that Atlanta game. I remember talking about this on post game with everybody back in the studio. One thing Atlanta's defense did relatively well, and I know they got shut out. They lost 25-0. Was not a great performance by the Patriots offense. Remember, they got a pick 6 from Kyle Van Noy. So they scored in the teens against defense that's not a great defense. But Dean Pease is there. And he had talked really all year about how they could not be aggressive. The Falcons couldn't be because they weren't talented enough to be aggressive defensively. And they were leaving themselves exposed elsewhere. Well, against Mac Jones, it's not like they blitzed the house every 3rd down, but they did send a variety of blitzes from the secondary,
Yeah,
from the
kind of
second level.
Yeah, not delayed blitzes as much as slow developing because they're coming from deep.
And well disguised, I would say. So not easily identifiable. Wasn't like they lined 7 guys up on the line of scrimmage and Mac Jones knew he was hot if this guy caught through and that was going to be his responsibility. And they had 5 other guys, or 6 maybe if the back is in to protect. They messed with his head a little bit. And since then, Mac Jones has remained one of the most frequently blitzed quarterbacks in the NFL. So that to me is one issue that, it hasn't killed them because his numbers aren't atrocious against the blitz. He's just slightly worse in a number of categories. Quarterback rating dips about 10 points. The yards per attempt dips about 1 point. So it's not like he gets just totally devastated by these blitzes. And that's what's torpedoed the end of his season here. But I do think that's probably one schematic thing that has made his life difficult.
It's a post-snap pop quiz. You can study all you want for the test. And I'm sure that he has and does. And there's so much documentation about how well he prepares. But this is an NFL level athlete from an NFL defensive coordinator sending a pop quiz at a rookie. Hey, what are you going to do about this? Where are you going to go now? Oh, he's coming. You guy hasn't broken off his route yet because you didn't get to alert to it. Uh-oh.
And it's on the difficult thing about it for him is, and from our perspective as media members, because I think this will color our conversation of Mac Jones, no matter what happens on Saturday, all off season, which is, okay, we talked about it before the draft. This is a throwback kind of quarterback. He is a pocket quarterback. A lot of people believe that can still win in the NFL. Some don't. Some think the athletes are just too good. And if you can't move and if you can't buy yourself time, you're going to have a hell of a time in the NFL. If he's the kind of quarterback where defensive coaches are talking to their players leading up to the game, as the Colts were, this was documented on Hard Knocks, saying, if we can just get to this guy, this is the type of play that you're going to see him make. And they show a mistake on the screen. Or Frank Reich addressing the entire team. We're going to make this quarterback feel things that he hasn't felt all season. We're going to rattle this guy. If that's the MO on you and you're not athletic enough to make those guys miss, and there's only so much your protection can do, again, I think the protection's been fine. It brings us back to that discussion we had pre-draft, which is this the kind of quarterback you want in today's NFL? Because the guys that are having the most success generally are the guys who can move or the supercomputer brains. And Mac Jones, I think, is very smart, but clearly he's not at Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers or Drew Brees level yet. And it might take multiple years for him to get there. So I can see that conversation in our future. It'll be deja vu all over again this offseason.
His system needs an upgrade, but it happens. It's not because, hey, he had more than a suitable system for a while, but now we need a system upgrade. I want to move on to obviously a playoff game that awaits. And as we look at the way the Patriots have played, and it has been more about them than their opponents, certainly against Indianapolis. Yeah, against Miami. I don't know about Buffalo, a little bit. I mean, again, the pick by Nikhil, as I look back at that game and doing some of my Mac research today, just kneecapping the team at that juncture. But to me, we don't want to explain everything away with the Patriots and say, oh, well, it's not them, it's us, meaning the Patriots saying that. But a lot of it is. And here's Bill Belichick when asked about the Patriots' confidence level.
Yeah, I don't think we lack confidence.
Phil, again, we have to interpret some of this because we can't really follow up and expect a whole mess of introspective thoughts from Bill on it. But the upshot of that is, yeah, we're fine if we don't play like assholes. We know we can do this. We know we're capable of not taking a delay. We know we're capable of not ending up in the same area on a 3rd and 10 from midfield, forcing us to punt, not even giving us a chance to go forward on 4th down. We know we shouldn't run downfield after our quarterback gets hit and belly buck a defensive player, as David Andrews did, or bounce up and down like Trent Brown did in front of the official for no reason. They know better. They know better than to lose contain. So it's not confidence unless you're just not confident that you can control yourself or can execute plays or not go downfield on plays. Are you reading it the same way? Bill has no qualms about the team's talent level or capabilities. It's the stupidity he can't understand.
It's if we execute the plan the way we know we have to execute it, and it's well within our reach, then we can beat anybody. I think that's their level of confidence right now. And honestly, I would tend to agree with them. The only thing that holds me back on this, Tom, and it's specific to this matchup, but you're going to see a good offense regardless of who you see this postseason. I worry about their pass rush. This is why we talked about Matt Judon, whether it was a week or 2 weeks ago, and we were pointing out that he hadn't really done a whole lot in terms of productivity off the edge in recent weeks, and that's continued. He has not had a sack or a quarterback hit since the Buffalo Bills game in Buffalo. This defense needs to be lights out for them to play well and beat good teams. And without the pass rush that they had early this season when they were playing lights out on that side of the ball, they just don't have enough, in my opinion, to beat these teams that are more talented than them. And now, not only is Matt Judon's run of lack of productivity continued, but now you might not have Christian Barmore either. And we'll see what his injury situation is. But that, to me, against Buffalo, if they're able to throw it, and the weather's a different discussion, we'll have that one, I'm sure. That, to me, really hurts their chances because it hurts their defense. And without a great defense, I don't think they can get anywhere.
And I think Josh Allen's probably looking across the field at these guys and going, yeah, I mean, personnel wise, they're pretty good, but I think I'm faster than all of their linebackers. I mean, and I'll take my Stephon Diggs and Emmanuel Sanders matchups against Jalen Mills and JC Jackson. Yeah, JC Jackson's fine. He's great. Well, he's good. He's going to make a lot of money in the league. A lot of teams would love to have JC Jackson, but he's not Charles Woodson, Deion Sanders, Stephon Gilmore. He's JC Jackson. He can be had. Upper tier, Pro Bowl level, not all pro level. Fair? That's what JC Jackson is. He is a Pro Bowl level corner. He's not an all pro level corner. The difference is you're one of the top 3 in the league, not one of the top 10. Be that as it may. Let's not get too far down the JC Jackson rabbit hole. Topic 3, the weather. We're looking at a goose egg out there.
It pains me. It pains me. You know why?
Because you're out there.
Selfishly, I'm going to have to be out there for that.
Yeah.
And I was just out. I just brought my Christmas tree outside to be taken away today, Tom. It took me about 5 minutes. I lost feeling it in all of my fingers. And that's just here in the greater Boston area where it's not quite 0 degrees.
Yeah, there's no lake effect.
I'm going to be a disaster. Just so you know, you're going to have to carry me pregame, postgame live because I'm going to be a disaster. I'm not sure the tongue is even going to be working properly in those kinds.
The post game is what's painful. I experienced that there. It's one of the most. I've been cold. We're all been cold. We can all remember cold times in our lives. One of the coldest I was after a Bills game with Giardi, and we're doing these 2.5 minute hits on the field, and usually you can just stand there and bounce up and down and wait in between the hits. It had to be single digits, but with a wind. It had to be minus 15. I'm sprinting into these little nooks and crannies. When are we on again? I got to go back out there. Just a cube. So no toughness at all, but you're going to have a tough time post game. The great thing, folks, of Phil last time he's in the gale force winds with the snow whipping, and he's outside the stadium for a Monday night game, which means he's going to have to go hustling inside to get to his spot and take his gloves off and eat something before the game because he's going to be there until 2:30 or 3. And he's already been there since 4 outside standing there. Is to watch how cranky he gets as the pregame goes on. Because, I've had that too, is you're hearing questions come from the studio. Hey, Phil, you said something about, and you're like, this guy's sitting there, no coat on, in a chair with a coffee on next to him that he can drink or not drink, depending upon his own. And you can just feel Phil getting more agitated. And he had a really agitated pregame. And I'm counting on that again Saturday. So pregame live.
I can't be that way though. I can't be that way. It could be way worse. It could be digging ditches. I should be having a good time
spraying lawns
with y'all.
Could be spraying lawns. That's what I always go with. Back in the lawn company.
It's Castle, I think, who really gets me going. Castle in Nashville. 6 inches of snow last week. The whole place had to shut down.
Bring the pigs in. All right. So there's not much we need to do on the weather. We've told people it's 0. You know what 0 feels like. Feels like 0 here.
I think it changes the game though, Tom. Don't you? I mean,
yeah,
I think it's hard to throw in 0 degrees.
It's hard to throw, it's hard to catch, and it's hard to field punts and work on special teams. It impacts the game. Don't forget, there's a crowned field there, the Tom Brady crowned field in Buffalo. Max only thrown it 3 times on that crowned field.
When you say crowned field, you mean it comes to sort of an apex. In the
Yeah,
middle
Brady
so
used
that
to
everything
complain.
runs off.
Brady used to complain that it was too much of a peak. I don't know if they still have that same peak, but it was like throwing downhill to the sidelines, he used to say. Last point I want to hit on here before we let y'all go, and we'll add some Kyle Van Noy on it at the end, is the Brian Flores firing in Miami. And whether or not that serves as just the latest cautionary tale for every prospective Patriots coach. I've talked in the past to Josh McDaniels about this, we all have, but one of the main problems in Denver was when he went there, yeah, Pat Bowlen wanted to hire him, but there were people in the front office who were kind of holdouts, who weren't sure if this young coach from the Patriots tree was going to be the right answer and how they were going to respond to his bedside manner in 2009. If you don't have every single person with you in the organization and you don't find success, then those people are going to find ways to criticize you. And there's a new broom sweeps clean, my way or the highway approach that has been taken so often by Patricia or Mangini or Josh or on down the line. Some guys haven't. You know, I think Romeo probably didn't. Bill O'Brien is far enough removed. And Mike Vrabel came at things from a different direction. Scott Pioli, new broom sweeps clean in Kansas City. Worked for a minute, but once things started going sideways, there were enough people in the organization who didn't really like being told that their job had to be different, and they had to pick up a candy wrapper, and Scott would leave it there and document how long that candy wrapper stayed there, which was noted in the story. That's the common denominator, I think. These guys come in and say, new sheriff in town, and when the shit doesn't work, the sniping begins. Brian Flores is not a go along to get along guy. He's a prickly guy. There was push-pull on the quarterback position. He and Chris Greer were working in lockstep, moving players out, Laramie Tunsil, Micah Fitzpatrick, Jarvis Landry. But they had what seemed like buy-in enough from the players to be heading in the right direction. But there's the offensive coordinator turnover, which leads to, you can't imagine that everybody in the building's like, yeah, let's fire the offensive coordinator again. There's the release of Kyle Van Noy after 1 year, which is just an example. We know Kyle, so that's, but there were other releases and move-ons from players that made people go, whoa. Huh. So there's more that goes into it. It's a huge relationship situation. Is it a cautionary tale, Phil, for Patriots coaches, yet again, when they go out, that you just can't do it like Bill does it? And Bill learned that too in Cleveland back in the 90s. He was not beloved. He had to do it differently when he came here. He had to create a coalition of people who supported him and tried to do that. But what's your take on the Flores firing? Because in hindsight, of course, all our jaws dropped. But in hindsight, you can say, well, I guess you can see that those were flares being sent up over the course of time.
Well, I guess the question is, because you just mentioned it, I think the culture there was changing. And I mean, they had performed relatively well, especially, on the defensive side of the ball, which is sort of his expertise. And I think what's funny is, Chris Greer survives, even though the drafting on the offensive side of the ball, and maybe Flores is borderline in control of those drafts. I don't know how it was working in Miami, but they tried to draft along the offensive line for multiple years. They drafted Tua Tagovailoa over Justin Herbert. Doesn't look so great. You got one of the worst offenses in football. No surprise. I just wonder, Tom, if owners and general managers are willing to do something that we talk about with players all the time, which is take constructive criticism and be willing to speak openly and honestly with each other and criticize with the goal in mind of getting better.
Mm-hmm.
we talk about it with players all the time. Oh, millennials, oh, these young guys, they can't take it, they can't do it. That's why the Patriots have to take all these Alabama guys, because they've worked with Saban, and it's part of them, and it's part of what they're looking for. It's why the draft board's so small, is because nobody can do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Is that now permeating front offices as well? Because we're talking about relationships. I mean,
No doubt.
honestly, who cares? I get it. Everybody has to have some sort of working relationship with the people that they are spending their days with. I get it. You have to be able to be a team player. But if it's, I didn't like the way he treated me, or I didn't like the way I don't know the details. So
Right.
I'll just say that up front, but it just sounds a little misguided. If that's the direction you choose to go, is because the relationships aren't as lovey-dovey as you were hoping they would be. It's not as smooth as you were hoping they would be. Sometimes it's okay to not have smooth relationships with everybody in the building, because
doubt.
it pushes people to be better.
But if the communication becomes dysfunctional, you know what I mean? If
totally.
if,
That's a
if
different
Brian
story.
Flores felt like, hey, we screwed up on Herbert, this pisses me off. Well, let's go see how he plays. You guys wanted him? Let's put him in here instead of Ryan Fitzpatrick. Let's show it. Let's take a look at your guy Tua here. And then when he blows up, well, have to put Ryan back in. This is kind of the way I felt the 2020 season went down there. They didn't need to put Tua in. They did. And it caused chaos. And if in hindsight, looking back at the conversations about, looking back at the complaints about relationships and who wanted who, and how much perhaps the owner, Stephen Ross, wanted Tua to succeed and thought that he was better than Herbert. If you're showing up, the GM and the owner, by making decisions like that, it's not going to work that well. And there's a reason I think Gerard Mayo would be the exception to this. And the main one is he hasn't gone to work in sweatpants for his entire adult life. He's had to be in a working environment, getting along with people where communications, relationships, and handshaking and glad handing are part of things when he worked at Optum. He's a very savvy relationship building person who can toggle between absolutely ridiculously funny behavior and dead serious behavior. He can talk philosophically, or he can talk about SpongeBob. And there's such an urgency, I think, that you get from the intensity of the Belichick, Patricia McDaniels, Flores group of this is how it's going to be, and this is how it's got to be, because Bill had a hill and we're going to have a hill, and there's no excuses. You got to have it. You're trying to ask people to do unnatural things with their bodies and smash into each other. There has to be a buy-in that's physical and total and mental, and toenails to top of your head. But everybody needs to be treated a little bit differently, I think. And it's elusive. And we keep seeing it with former Patriots coaches. Look, is Sean McVay the genius we made him out to be? No, we lost a game the other day to San Francisco they needed to kind of win. Is Kevin Stefanski a flippant genius? No. Is Matt Rule? I mean, no, it's all about relationships and how the organism of the team develops. But, you know, if one of those portions of the organism starts to metastasize and it's up near the head with the coach, owner, and GM, probably got to cut it out.
Yeah, I
got no. That's it.
I think for Gerard or anybody else, and listen, Brian Flores, he took that job. He was a first-time head coach, right? So he goes to work with a GM who's been there forever in Miami, who has a great relationship with Stephen Ross. It's a good job. You want to take that leap in your career, you go for it. But you have to be 100% aligned with whoever is running your front office for anything to work. And it feels like they were until the level of success wasn't where they wanted it to be. And from the outside looking in, it looks like one guy had the owner's ear and one guy didn't. And it was the guy who has been with the owner for a long time. And well, if, you know, I mean, for all we know, Chris Greer is okay with the way they handled Tua. I mean, that's a team building thing. That's a conversation you have to have when you draft the guy. Okay, well, we want to get a look at him. We want him to play because if he's, you know, we got to figure out all these players. We don't know for sure if he's our franchise guy. And if he's not, we have to, a year or two after the thing, we have to figure out a way to move on, because we might miss. People miss all the time. Like that to me is what this feels like is it didn't go as well as we thought. Somebody's got to go. Yeah, Steve, we've been together a long time. It's probably going to be the other guy.
Yeah, and it's funny too because you look at Joe Judge in New York, and that outwardly was a situation that announced itself as being dysfunctional with the results on the field and the way they played in games down the stretch, and the way his comportment at press conferences was. But apparently his relationship, because Dave Gettleman was getting the gate anyway as the GM, and he was in a good enough spot with Mara, the owner, that he could survive a clown show that he presided over in 2021. Meanwhile, a non-clown show in Miami that had bitterness meant that another Patriots guy who was, my way or the highwaying it, had to go. It's really fascinating. It's a jungle out there.
If you're Gerard Mayo, Tom, and you're a young guy and you're looking for that first opportunity, are you cool working with almost any general manager and just trying to make it work, and just depending on your own ability to build and cultivate relationships that you'll eventually
I don't think
a way
so.
to be aligned,
No,
or it's got to be somebody that you already know and you feel good about going?
Got to already know him. Because I think that he's very evaluative. Mayo is an intuitive on how people are and how he's going to get along with them and what he thinks of their. Look, we've worked with him. He wants people to be upbeat. Remember, he used to call Devin when Devin would come on. He called him low energy Dev if he wasn't into it. Yeah. I mean, he brings people up. Low energy Dev. We got low energy Dev today. He's a great employee. He's going to be a great leader. But I think the ownership aspect that Bill Belichick so strongly presented is the most important part of a coach's success or failure has to be taken into account too. Do you want to go to that absolute ridiculousness that seems to exist in Chicago? I don't know if you watched that press conference with
George
McCaskey.
Yeah,
it was ridiculous. Do you want to go to the clown show in Houston with whoever the McNair is in charge, Cal?
Right.
I mean, I trust Shad Khan more than the other guys, but then you're playing at a mom and pop store. Jacksonville is, a low budget joint. Yeah.
What's the ownership situation in Denver these days? Because that's one spot where we know Mayo has had a.
That's a very good point. In flux, there was a fight at the top. I don't know if there was some squabbling over sales or not, but it was obviously the Bolins. And then there was a squabble as to who had control. So that's a little unsettled. Yeah, you get David Tepper, first-time head coach, owner in North Carolina, interviews one guy and hires him. He's obviously a business genius. All these guys are business. Stan Kroenke, business genius. He did fine with McVay, but it's just really interesting.
It's just tough. It's tough if you're looking for that first job, to me, because it's almost like beggars can't be choosers. I mean, they can be, I know, in theory, but these guys, I think, and I would include Gerard in this. I think you're willing to kind of swallow hard and accept some things to get that first opportunity and try to make it work.
It is such a lottery ticket too. I think that people have to understand that. Why do these guys subject themselves to interviews where they either know they're not going to get the job or go into what they think are bad situations, and because it's a lottery ticket. You go from making maybe 300, 400,000, maybe $1 million as a coordinator or a well-respected coach to signing a 5-year deal worth 30, 40, 50 million. 50 might be pushing it, but these guys are getting $6 or $7 million a year, right? 4 at least. So that's a lottery ticket. You go from $400,000 a year to $4 million a year. It's a lottery ticket. So good talk, Phil. I think we're done.
Great talk. Let's wrap it up.
Yeah, we went for a while. Tuesday's supposed to be Phil's day off. You know what kind of a day off Phil takes? Not much of one. Love you. Oh, one last thing, Phil. Here comes Kyle Van Noy. Here comes my guy, who's got a handsome head and great brows too. It's Kyle Van Noy. We got a rubber match.
I'm here. What's going on?
How do you guys go about putting your best game on the field in the third meeting against the Buffalo Bills?
think it starts with preparation. I think the energy in the building's got to be at an all-time high with everybody. Even our lunch ladies, they gotta bring the juice, and we just got to put it all on the table. It's win or go home, and it's the same thing for them. We got to go up into a hostile environment in Buffalo and get the job done. They're going to be ready. Josh Allen's playing good football. He's playing inspiring football to the rest of their team. Singletary, their RB1 is playing unbelievable, and their O-line's getting it done. And we just got to go in there and play Patriot football and put all our chips on the table and get after it.
Does familiarity help in a week like this? I mean, you've played in 11 playoff games over your career. You've probably prepared for teams that you didn't see in the regular season, prepared for teams that you have seen. This is one you've seen twice in recent weeks. Does that help where you can cut to the chase and say, look, I know what they do?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, they're a game plan offense and a game plan defense. I think you heard McDermott talk about that with their DBs playing a different leverage than they normally have, and offensively, they did some different things. So you got to prepare for everything, and they got to prepare for us. It's going to be a really competitive game, and I'm excited for the opportunity to play in the playoffs. We have such a great opportunity to play a divisional opponent that we do know, but at the same time, we need to be ready for everything. And that's what's the beauty about this game is we get to play football. And Saturday night in Buffalo, that's definitely where you want to be.
And you guys can dictate it. I mean, that's the thing is you're in a position where how you perform will dictate the game. It's a fair fight in that it's a team that you've played well against. It's a team that you started slowly against and then had on the ropes a little bit at the end. I ask you this. You talked earlier this year about a 2-4 mentality and maintaining that through the year. As the season's gone along, especially in the last month or so since the bye, we've seen some pre-snap mistakes or mental errors or penalties, things like that seem uncharacteristic, not as much urgency. Can you explain to me how the urgent mindset is failing to translate? You understand what I'm saying? I don't want to be too pointed in it and accusatory, but I just want to get it out there.
Yeah, no, I that's totally, that's your job to be able to bring up those questions, and it's fair that I have to answer them. And, I don't know what that is, but this week is what a better week to get all that stuff sorted out and put it all out there and play ball. I mean, I don't think you need any juice playing in a playoff game with everything on the line. We got to have everybody all high energy, ready to go, starting at practice, and then carry that over within the week to Saturday. And I think that's our main focus is we got to play to win on Saturday. Let's go.
And that's the thing. Bill goes, look, I don't think they lack confidence. Someone asked about the confidence level. And that seems to me for him to be indicating, look, this isn't a confidence thing. This isn't a talent thing. This is a go out and do the stuff that you're capable of down in and down out. Is that an accurate read on kind of what he's sending across to you guys?
Yeah, I would have to listen to what he said. I don't want to paraphrase for him or say something. Just for me personally, I think we just got to focus, play in and play out one play at a time, put all our energy in that one play, and then move on to the next one, and then just keep stringing them together. They're a really talented team. They've been playing really good football. They're the division champs, and we got to go up there and play to win. And that's what we want to do, and we're going to try our best. Let's go.
A lot of us were surprised when we saw Monday morning that Brian Flores, the day after his Dolphins had beaten you guys, was relieved of his duties down there. What was your reaction to that news?
Yeah, I don't really have one. Everybody's asking me for one, but I truly don't have one. I'm focused about my situation here, getting ready for the playoffs. I don't wish that on anyone. It's not fun packing up your house and moving, but it's the nature of this business, and I wish him all the luck. He's a great coach, and he's going to get another opportunity. But I'm honestly focused on my situation and being in control of what I can do to prepare for the Buffalo Bills.
All right, well, let's give you another one that takes your focus off of that. Gerard Mayo, could have head coaching opportunities of his own. What kind of a leader has he been for you guys at the linebacker level?
Oh, man. I have to say good things about Mayo?
Yeah.
No. Yeah, that's easy. What a just an unbelievable human being. Let's just start from there. Really good guy from top bottom. Like he just does things right. And he's got this way about his personality to light up a room. And that's exactly who you want as a head coach. But I'm not going to get into that. I'm just excited he's still my coach right now. And then if situations happen to where he gets a gig, I'm going to be happy for him because he deserves it. But right now I'm going to be focused that he's my coach and he's got to tell me what to do. So let's go.
You're 8-2 as a Patriot so far in your 10 postseason games here. What will it take for you guys to get to 9-2?
Wow.
I know.
To just honestly, just to put everything on the line, move everything to black and go for it. We just got to go for it, bring that energy, bring that juice, stay focused, and play every play. Play Patriot football, fast, dependable, and smart. And I think if we have that mindset each and every play, we can get the job done. But it's going to take all 11 of us on offense, all 11 of us on defense, and all 11 of us on special teams each and every snap.
All right, my guy. Well, as always, we appreciate your time. We wish you good luck Saturday night. How do you feel about a Saturday night game?
Hey, I'm ready, man. I wasn't happy about the last game, so I'm ready to get back on the field as fast as possible and get after it. And, it's can't come soon enough, and I'm excited for the challenge against Buffalo. I truly am. They're a great team. We got a good team. It's going to be a really good battle.
All right, man. Hey, take care of yourself. Good luck on Saturday night. People will be watching. Take care.